Hey, welcome everyone. It's 7 p.m. on Tuesday. I'm Jacqui Lewis and I'm the clinical nutritionist for BN Multi. And tonight I'm here to discuss all things bariatric. Again, like we do every Tuesday night. This week we're talking about preparation for surgery and what you might need in a physical capacity as far as planning goes, making sure you've got everything you need to go to hospital, as well as mindset and what you might do to help with pre-surgery nerves and anything else that might come your way in the lead up to surgery. So each week we meet here on the BN Multi page and we do such things as this. Every week there's a different topic, and during the week we ask your input throughout the BN Bariatric group. So by means of a poll. So generally we'll pop a poll in the group on this topic and find out how you all respond. And that way I can tailor my conversation around areas that might need a little bit more work, or give you a pat on the back for things that you've done and done a great job of. And generally that's the case. I think it's always pretty inspiring to hear your take on the commitment you've made and the changes that you have to instill after weight loss surgery and beyond. So good on you, and thanks for showing up again tonight. So this week, prepping for surgery, I'll share my screen so we can have a look at the I just want to share. So we can all have a look at the poll, and I'll be a midget in the corner. So this week, how did you approach your surgery? 169 people said, I was completely prepared. So it tells me you're gung-ho, you're organised, your team are very supportive, because I think that's where it starts, is getting you prepared for what's ahead. Also looking at what you need for when you get home. So I was completely prepared. I had everything I needed, and it was exactly what I expected, which is also a sign that your team are on board too. So that's great. It's a big thing to think about when you're heading down that track of weight loss surgery and the intervention itself. And I think most people who are qualifying for the operations are at the end of their tether with trying all sorts of different things to help them, regain their health, as well as, of course, losing weight. So that, I think, is where this commitment comes from, is generally by the time you get to the operating theatre, you've tried so many different things and you're noticing that whatever you're doing is not necessarily working. So where this comes into play is the metabolic changes that the weight loss surgery implements, that changes the way your body will deal with, calories, food, that sort of thing as well, and your metabolism and your blood glucose levels and all those sorts of things, and especially the hunger hormone, which is called ghrelin. So generally, by the time you arrive at the point where you qualify for weight loss surgery, there's a massive endocrine or hormonal imbalance in varying different areas. One of them is obviously insulin, which is why we have a lot of non-insulin dependent type 2 diabetes, which is insulin resistance. There's also this insatiable hunger that it doesn't matter whether you've just had a roast meal and, dessert and a whole lot of other things, the hunger signal is still running around in your head. And that's an endocrine issue as well. So this is where the surgery does weave that magic wand over actually changing the mechanisms of the way you deal with food. There's malabsorption, and there's also the metabolic changes as well. So the bypass more than the sleeve will leave you with malabsorption of calories, but also malabsorption of nutrients. So that's what our bag is when we talk about the malabsorption of nutrition. So that's excellent. 169 people who were completely prepared and had everything they needed. And I would imagine that's from a physical standpoint, like had your bag packed, knew what you were in for, had your jammies ready. I'm also hoping it means you had supportive family and friends and people you can lean on when you've had a surgery such as this one. So that's kind of where I want to go as well, is talk about not only did you pack the right things in your bag, but did you have the right mindset, and also did you have the right support team from as far as your professional team goes, but also the people that you're dealing with at home in your personal life. So 31 votes. I was fine in hospital, but could have been more prepped at home for my recovery. And that can be whether you needed more options as far as the food and the liquid and puree stages goes, or whether you weren't ready for how tired you would feel. And maybe some people have a really dream run. They come home, they feel quite good, their pain is minimal, and they start on the liquids and the purees, but don't have any kind of adverse reactions to different foods, and they find that things are sitting quite well. Some people have different foods that they just can't tolerate anymore, which are a surprise. So this early stage in the recovery can be a bit of a not a gamble. I want the word of, it can be a bit of trial and error. So it's looking at maybe different protein solutions or different, foods and dairy, those sorts of things that may or may not agree, and just sifting through and finding out what does work. Some people, as I said, are very lucky, and most things go down and stay that way. Other people have to kind of go through a process of elimination to find those great solutions that they can manage and enjoy as well. 11 votes. I thought I was prepared, but I didn't bring a few things to the hospital. That can either be a last minute rush, or it can be that your surgery date was either moved forward or messed around with COVID. A lot of people had their surgery completely canned, and then they'll get a phone call saying, hey, you're up. So this year we've had quite a few people who were prepared, then they were unprepared, and then they had to quickly get prepared again. So sometimes that's where things slip through the gaps. The other thing can be that some people are just more inclined to try and do things at the last minute. So it depends on your personality as well. I think it's a lot to do with that. 3 votes said, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. That would come as a bit of a surprise. I recommend more reading beforehand. And I will talk about preparation and things that you can do in the lead up. I mean, often the journey from the birth of the idea of having weight loss surgery to the actual implementation of the plan can be like a pregnancy, where you do need time. And actually, I was talking to one of the surgeons the other day, and he recommends that there is time between, reaching out and asking the question of whether it is an idea that you can toy with. And its implementation. So even those who are frustrated by the wait for their health funds to mature and that sort of thing, often that is the time where, yes, it's frustrating because you've made the decision that you'd really like to start getting on the losing weight bandwagon. But often it's a time where you need to really have a think about education, looking at what the surgery means to you, what it does, what you'll need to think about after surgery. Also mindset, looking at the triggers that led you down the path of obesity. So are there addictions to food? Are there addictions to other substances such as alcohol and that sort of thing? Is there emotional eating? Are there is there disordered eating in some other aspect as well? And that is the time in the lead up is when you could be exploring what's going on there, which would help with the journey after surgery, because you've done a lot of the work as far as the mechanisms that are driving your food choices and your overall lifestyle and habits. So that is something to think about. If you're just starting out kind of fishing around looking for ideas, that's a good place to go, is look at what am I doing that is supporting this current lifestyle, and what do I need to do to change the things that aren't serving me at the moment, and who needs to help me with that, because often it's not something that we can do by ourselves. I saw at a conference I went to recently, and I'm trying to get the footage of it if I can, because it was an interview with a weight loss surgery patient who did all the psychological work before she had the surgery. And it meant for her that there was none of this battle going on while she was going through the healing stage and all of that sort of stuff as well. So she was pretty much, by that stage, she'd managed all of the things she had going on around food and her relationship with herself and food, and then had pretty much just, focusing on the practical ways of managing her life after weight loss surgery, and her results were incredible. And I will try and find that video. One of the dietitians at one of our conferences showed it a couple of weeks ago. It's a one to watch because it will help you to see what the links are between doing the head game work as well as the physical changing habits, and using a bariatric portion plate and bowl is part of it, but this other area is something that certainly needs to be focused on too. 3 votes said, I like to try to wing things and work it out as I go, and I'm really happy to see that it was only 3 votes and we had 169 say that they were incredibly prepared, because these 3 votes may find that there's hiccups along the way, and that preparation and being organised and being open to new ways, and also not doing the wait and see approach is a really good way to get to the end of your, to basically get your results that you're looking for. I always say proper preparation prevents poor performance, the 5 Ps. So making sure you're prepared is something that will certainly guarantee your results as well. Beautiful. So we had a few comments around all of that. I'll just turn the share off. One of my contact lenses is playing up. So we had Debbie was saying you don't need much in hospital for an overnight stay. Depends on how long you stay. Some people stay a few nights, some only stay 1. And again, that depends on you, your pre-existing health, your risk profile, your surgeon, your hospital, your location. It could be anything that's driving that. So I think there is a relative kind of way that things are managed, but there are also different surgeons like to do different things as well. So yes, she said you don't need much in the hospital for an overnight stay. I had some PJs I never wore. Make sure you have some really loose clothing to wear the day after so you can move around more freely. It's good to get the advice from those who've been there. I think that's the benefit of this group, is that you've got a group who are coming through looking at having surgery and getting ready. And then you've got all the veterans who are willing to share their experience and make, shortcut the journey a little bit as well, which is great. Then we had Anne said, I didn't have any nerves. I was excited. And I can see that's a great approach. And it's also quite a common one, because everyone's like, finally, I'm getting to this point where I can make this change and embrace it as well. This was the beginning of a new lifestyle for me, and I'd spent a couple of years researching. So that's brilliant. That's where we're talking about this longevity of the journey, is don't be put off if there is a long lead time to actually getting the surgery, because that is the time where you're not just kicking back waiting for it. It's the time where you could be working on yourself and changing those habits. It's a great time to start making food choices that are different and setting up new ways of socializing, all those sorts of things. No time like the present, I say. Emily said, I wasn't prepared for how underprepared the hospital would be. They provided sustagen, high sugar content, and terrible soups. I would have taken my own appropriate foods if I had have known, but I survived. And that is something that you might consider is if you've got preferences, you can take them along and certainly use those. And it's a great idea to have a backup in case what they are providing isn't suiting you. And then you've got a backup so you're not sitting there hungry. Carolyn said, I had to be completely prepared. And this is a really common thing, as my surgery happened 10 hours away from my home. And I had to stay in the area for 10 days after the op before going home, so that I had to have everything ready at home before I left so I could focus on getting right without distractions. That's, yeah. And so many people I speak to are traveling, or one patient I spoke to just last week is Norfolk Island, coming over to the Gold Coast to have surgery as well. So it is something that's quite common. And also people who are living rurally will travel to cities as well, and also have to be quite well prepared for that. I did read this week that they recommend you, when you get picked up from the hospital, to bring a pillow that's in the car and pop that over your tummy while you're being driven, don't be driving, and hold it over your belly so that it's not moving around so much, and you'll find that you don't feel the impact of the speed humps and stuff on the way out of the hospital car park particularly, but on the way home it makes for a smoother ride, and it's less dramatic for your new belly. Alira said, I got an amazing list for hospital, pre-op and post-op, and I was well prepared for myself, and even had meals prepared and frozen for 2 weeks for the family. Oh, beautiful. This is also what happens is a lot of women who are going into surgery, who are busy looking after everybody else, are getting ready for a lot of what they need to do after surgery, but they're also preparing for the people at home in that time to make sure that all their family are operational as well. And so that it is a lot to get prepared for if that's the case. I'm not saying that every woman runs the household, but I'm saying that often we like to make sure that everything's taken care of in our absence as well. So that's where I'm going with the poll. It was great to see that everybody was very organized. And I really encourage having a look at the different ways you can work with mindset and habit change. Either in the lead up, it needs to be done at some point, and it's always good to do when you're not faced with all these other changes and fatigue and anything else that's going on after your op as well. Not many questions this week, team. I think, do you know everything about bariatric surgery? It's great to hear from you, so please remember to pop your questions in the group, because it helps me to also to give you more information around the things that you're interested in or that you need. Debbie was asking, I had my gallbladder removed 10 weeks ago. I'm going well, but one thing I struggle to eat is eggs. Is that common after having your gallbladder removed? I used to love eggs, but if I have one with any other protein, I feel really unwell. It's not necessarily gallbladder specific, I wouldn't think. And I'm just guessing and going on what might be happening. It may be, if they're hard boiled, it might be hard for your body to break down the proteins. The harder or hotter something is cooked in a form of protein, meat, eggs, that sort of thing, the more it's cooked, or like a hard boiled egg as opposed to a soft scrambled egg, the proteins are more tightly linked together. So when they go into your body, if there's not as much stomach acid, and of course there's no bile secretion, less gastric secretions overall, gastric sleeve will and bypass reduce your secretions as it is, then take your gallbladder out, and then you've lost your bile duct, which is also, bile's job is to emulsify fats and make them water soluble. So when that's not going on, if you've got low enzymatic activity, low acid and low bile salts, you'll find that some things will be a bit sticky to digest. Some people, they don't even notice their gallbladder's gone. It's quite incredible. As as someone who's kind of got a handle on the science and the anatomy of it, I can't see how that happens. But some people, it's quite incidental and they're just happy to have it out because it's been causing them so much pain. Other people have more difficulty with loose stools if they're eating too much fat. Generally, it's when fat is creeping into the diet. They'll find that because the body is not able to emulsify them or mix them with water, they come out of your bowel and they're quite, it's still quite fatty. It's quite pasty, can be a loose, sticky stool. It can be yellow in color. And that's a sign of fat malabsorption. The other thing I might look at is if you've combined it with another form of protein, it might just be a job for your body to break it down. So if you're having like a hard-boiled egg or even a boiled egg, you might just try a loose scrambled egg and see if that makes any difference, and just maybe pop it in by itself and see if that's the key as well. But I would suggest it's to do with your digestive process at this stage. And things you can do around that is talk to someone who can help you with maybe some digestive enzymes and looking at overall gut health and improving the environment that the food's going into. It's always going to make it easier to break it down. And just on that, there's a great book on our website, and I was listening again to the podcast today, actually, with Aaron Deer, Arundhir, who's a bariatric surgeon from Melbourne, and he's written Healthy Gut, Healthy Weight, Healthy Gut, Happy Weight, one of those. It's on the website. It's a great book on gut health and the impacts of bariatric surgery on gut health and the state of gut health prior to bariatric surgery and how to support it in the best way you possibly can. I just recommend it's a great read, and it will change your thoughts on, how you eat and why you eat what you do, and keeping fresh food coming in and making sure the microbiome is nice and happy and healthy. AJ asked a question regarding restriction. Why is it? Why is it? And I'd like to hear your comments on this, family. Why is it some days I feel like I can eat heaps without feeling full or pain, but other days I can feel quite restricted? I know it can depend on what's being eaten, and if they are slider foods, it can make it easy to eat too much. For me, some days I can eat something and feel like after a bite or two I'm full. Other days with the same food, I feel like I could keep eating without feeling full or any signs of discomfort. I'm 9 months post-op. It's interesting it's even the same food. And again, I would suggest it's the environment it's going into. If there's not much activity in there as far as enzymes and acids and that sort of stuff, food goes in and sits because there's nothing to just break it down quickly. So maybe that's what it is, but not having a sleeve. I'm not an expert on foods that I can and can't eat on varying days. It could be that some days you're more metabolically active than others, depending on if you did a big weight session the day before. You'll find your body is needs more energy. So perhaps that's something to do with it. But I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on that when it's the same food going in and it's different on every other day. There used to be an app where you could map your biorhythms. I don't know how much science is in it, but it's like today will be an amazing day and tomorrow won't be, because your biorhythms and your, astrological chart may not be in alignment. Thank you. I'd be interested to hear your comments. So if you've got a valid or an understanding of why you might be able to eat some food on some days and not on others, just let me know. Thank you. Kirsty asked, hoping you can help me here, just wondering what is the maximum amount of protein the body can absorb from one meal? This was great because we had heaps of people in different articles and different responses. Example, I'm using 2 15-gram scoops, workable, or even 3. Is using 2 15-gram scoops workable? So overall, a belly which has not had bariatric surgery, they recommend 20 to 25 grams of protein in one sitting is all that you can really take in. So it might be 100 grams of meat. We'll normally have about 20 to 25 grams of protein in there. So more in one sitting is not helpful because it won't be absorbed. And it needs a lot of water. Protein needs water and H2O, hydrogen, and oxygen to help with the breakdown. It also it's recommended you drink more water when you're eating a high protein diet as well. It helps the kidneys deal with it as well. And it stops what we call urea raising, which is like, when people get gout, it's often because they're dehydrated and they've got high purine or high protein diet. So my answer is 20 to 25 grams at a time. The other stuff that's coming up about weight loss surgery patients is the recommendation for protein may have been a little bit on the lower side. So looking at what your actual needs are to sustain your muscle levels and maintain your health overall. And that can range depending on your ideal body weight and your level of activity. So you're looking at about 0.9 of a gram per kilogram of your ideal body weight per day. So it's generally they're saying between 60 and 80 grams, and I would try it for the higher end of that, around about 80, depending on how active you are. If you're really quite active, you might need even more than that. So it's a good thing to talk to your practitioner. So that was all the questions and the poll results. Then the last thing we've got is our winner of, let me share my screen. Couple of heads ups. Next week, the live will be at 7:30, not 7 p.m. And the reason for that is I have a very special guest. Chrissy Freer is joining me next Tuesday night at 7:30. And she's a nutritionist and she's a PhD student. And she wrote this book. Tough to see. I've got a picture of it on the thing. Disappearing. She wrote this book. It's called The Anti-Inflammatory Cookbook. And I'll share my screen so you can see. Here it is. This book has dips, breakfast, has dinner, has desserts, has all sorts of foods in it that are firstly gluten-free, which is helpful because some people have trouble with gluten after surgery. Also, you could probably find something in here that the fussiest eater would enjoy. It's a book that I use at home, and I particularly enjoy, there's a great recipe in there for like a tuna and borlotti bean dip. And that I make when people come over, but I also make so much that the next day I've got it for I mix it with a salad and have it for lunch. It's the best thing ever. So they're easy, really healthy recipes that don't have elaborate ingredients in them. All beautiful herbs and spices and things that you kind of new ideas of way to mix things together. So Chrissy's joining me in the live next week. I'm also doing a podcast with her, so stay around for that one. But we'll talk about inflammation and its effects on our health and why would we embark on an anti-inflammatory eating regime, particularly as a weight loss surgery patient, given that obesity is an inflammatory condition. We'll have a look at all the range of different bodily functions that can impact on as well. So I can't say enough about that recipe book. I think it's fabulous. So, and somebody won it. Even better. So Transformation Tuesday, we do need your input and we love to hear your stories. So on Tuesdays, there's an opportunity in the group to share your story about how it's all been for you and show us your results. Doesn't have to be that it doesn't have to be a before and after picture. It could be something that you're enjoying doing now that you never thought was possible. There's so many different offshoots of what do they call it? Non-sleeve victories. Things that you never thought were possible that you're doing now as well. And it's interesting how far and how varied the results are as far as personal life and you know, work, all that sort of thing changes. So anyway, Deirdre Schultz is our winner this week. She didn't seem to put in a story, but I think the images speak for themselves. So Deirdre, you've won the Anti-Inflammatory Cookbook by Chrissy Freer. All you need to do is send us an email, support@bnmulti.com, and we will get your book out to you. And then we'll strike a deal with you where you tell us what you're cooking, and no, I'm joking. And you can share your favorite recipe if you like, but I recommend it. It's on the website for sale. My take on it is that it's $35 and you'll cook most of your week's meals out of it. So I think you'll get good value out of it. So congratulations, Deirdre, you've done a great job. And obviously out living life. Looks like you were racing car driving maybe. So you're welcome to share your story as well. So team, it's time to head off. I thank you for joining me. I might just check before I run away. I will check and see if I can, because quite often I can't see the questions you leave for me. It's terrible. So you don't have to go through that as well. Often it won't show me until I get off 20, yeah. Whether there's comments and questions, further questions that you have. Let me just double check. Here we go. Christy says, I need this book. Hopefully I can avoid going on anti-inflammatories after. It is the Mediterranean diet as well as clinically proven to be anti-inflammatory. So kind of hovering in that range somewhere. And this book is just to help her for that. Maggie says, my surgery is May the 18th. I hope I'm prepared. If you've got any questions about being prepared, Maggie, stick them in the group because everyone's been there. And Kimbo says hello. And there's more comments, but I can never see all of them. It's a strange one. So I generally go back over it and I'll answer them once I've disappeared. So thank you for your attention and for your commitment to yourself overall. And I look forward to talking with you next week at 7:30. And I'll have Chrissy with me to answer all your questions about the anti-inflammatory cookbook. Brilliant. Have a lovely week. Take care.